issues with that.
Well, Mike Keating, he knows full well what I'm going to say. The term head of state does not occur, actually, in the Australian Constitution. Neither does any precise equivalent. We do know that the High Court of Australia, in its decision in 1909, described the Governor-General as the constitutional head of the head of the Commonwealth. The Governor-General signs bills into law. She summons Parliament. She dissolves Parliament. She appoints ministers. If necessary, she dismisses ministers. Are these not the actions of a head of state? The term head of state is a republican term of art. It doesn't apply to the Australian Constitution. In as much as it applies to the Australian Constitution, the Governor-General is head of state. And last time I looked, she's an Australian citizen.
Well, Bob Brown, how do you see this new head of state acting? Is it just replacing the Governor-General straight out? If it's directly elected by the people, though, that person would have a lot more power, wouldn't they? And then you're going into the area where that person could be with a political party.
It's very easy to accept that the President elected by the Australian people would have the same powers as the Governor-General appointed by the Queen on the advice of the government of the day in Australia. That is not difficult. Australia has the wit and wisdom to make that change. Ireland made that change, and it hasn't led to anarchy or disruption there. They have a ceremonial head of state who has somewhat equivalent powers to the Australian President that would replace the Governor-General. But Australians, the more important matter, of course, that came through in the referendum 10 years ago was that Australians were not impressed with the idea of parliamentarians electing this new head of state. They wanted a say in it. And I think in a way, one of the questions, although it will undoubtedly be put again, is about who will appoint the President when she or he puts their hand up. We get nominations for it, and the people of Australia want a say in that. But the model we have is pretty clear, but we need an Australian as head of state, and that's what the majority of Australians are aiming for.
Tony Abbott, does that worry you? I know you don't want a republic at all, but if there was to be one, does that idea of directly electing the President, does that particularly concern you? Do you see that becoming a political process?
Actually, the thing that concerns me most of all is the rather adolescent sloganeering that we get from the Republicans. I mean, this mindless mantra of an Australian head of state. I mean, we have an Australian Governor-General who is a much different entity and individual because he or she represents the Crown than would be the case if there was no Crown to represent. But look, any directly elected President would be a very substantial political rival to the Prime Minister. I think we would have effectively a government with two heads if we were to have a directly elected President, and that's one of the reasons why I think this republic is doomed always to fail, because there is no model that the Republicans can come up with which is as subtle and as sophisticated and as effective as the one we've got now under the Crown.